Hey guys, it's Jamie from IndependenceStNola and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here to talk about this full moon in Gemini that's happening tomorrow, December 7th, 2022, and it is our last full moon of 2022. So here we are, you guys. And it is a great moon to end on, quite honestly. It's to me, a very mystical moon. It's magical, and I say that because the moon, when it's full, will be conjunct Mars, because Mars, as you know, is in Gemini, and he's retrograde in Gemini, and he's been there now for a minute, as the kids say, and he's going to be there for a little while longer, as other people say. So let's start to break this down. There's a lot coming through with this full moon, especially it being the last full moon of 2022. So Gemini is an air sign. Gemini is mutable. Gemini takes us from spring into summer. And so Gemini is known as the twins. And the twins are here to gather information. And Gemini went through the lunar south node right before Scorpio went through the lunar south node. And as we know, Scorpio is still in that lunar south node. So Gemini was in it first. And when Gemini was going through that south node, it to me signaled the end of duality. And I really feel like this full moon is going to be highlighting that even more. It's important to think about, Gemini is an air sign. There's two, right? So I always say the head and the heart. You can ask both. They will both give you answers. And then from those two answers, you go to that third answer. You can ask, and from these, what's a higher answer or a higher way to go? And that is bringing us into a higher consciousness. That is allowing us to see that we do have options. And there are so many options. The universe is infinite, and sometimes we forget that. And sometimes we still are in that mentality. It's either got to be this way or that way. And honestly, it can be a whole nother way. So I really feel like this full moon in Gemini is highlighting that. And then with this, and this keeps coming through very loudly, so I'm just going to say it. It's really starting to signal this end of the scarcity mindset. When I was pulling cards on this morning, I pulled the Four of Pentacles, and it's important for us to know that we can hold many thoughts and many feelings at one time. Okay, it's possible, and I mean we do. We keep moving forward even if we feel like we're in a paradox. That is possible. So the idea of how we feel like healthy and rich and grounded, and as we see that as quote unquote wealth, but I also think it's really tying into the planet and how we're going to come back and nurture her, and that we can see that we can nurture her every single way possible, and we can all still be quote unquote wealthy. No one's going to get left behind if we put our if we take care of our resources, the earth, Gaia, but also and then see us also as a beautiful resource. If we start thinking about that, and I think that is also going to be highlighted in the coming weeks with this full moon. Full moons illuminate. Full moons, we can see where things are working, and then we can also see where things need to be let go. Right? That's the great thing with the full moon. The full moon is reflecting the sun, right? And so it's still that masculine and feminine working perfectly in tandem together. And so what is also being very highlighted to me for this full moon is that it is conjunct Mars, and Mars is retrograde. And I feel like, to me, what this is signaling is that we as a collective are getting out of this idea it can only be one way or the other. And then we're moving into this idea that we're smarter than we give ourselves for, like we can come up with new solutions. It's this idea that we can be okay with, breaking the patriarchy, but doing it and just in not in like it's a rebellion or a revolution of consciousness. It's not necessarily that rebellion or revolution of anger. I mean, we can get angry and it can get us there, but not like physical anger. And I think that is being highlighted with Mars, with all this happening, and because Mars is retrograde. I was thinking Mars retrograde, he's on vacation. He is taking it all in. Him and Gemini are going over a lot of things that have happened in the past year, and if not more, And it's not that Mars isn't working, right? He's just going over what has happened, right? He is still going to the refrigerator and getting himself a soda. It's just that he's not moving to like, how can I get a soda from, Wisconsin? He's kind of just like working on what's like around him. That masculine energy is the energy that moves us. And so when he is retrograde, sometimes we feel extremely restlessness. My whole brain was sighing this morning. I told my friend Patricia, my brain's sighing, it wants something to do. And that's important, when we do feel this restlessness, especially with this full moon. It's asking us to take a look around. Why do we feel restlessness? What is it about our surroundings that we feel like maybe we need to make better or bring something new in, instead of just like taking a look around and seeing what we have and really ask questions about it. Do I still need this? Am I still moving in this old paradigm? Am I still listening to outdated thoughts and ideas? Can there be a different way to quote unquote make money, protect the earth and still be fine? These are all, big questions, but I really feel like they're all going to be answered in the coming weeks. And the thing is too, when I say like, take care of the earth, I mean too, like your environment. You can take care of your environment and still be quote unquote wealthy. There's no one right way. And I feel like whenever Gemini is involved and Mars is here, Mars is still saying, hey, we can have different ideas, you guys. The difference is that if we get when we get sparked and if we do feel like a uprising or an anger, it's not going to be long because Mars is in retrograde. He doesn't stay retrograde. He eventually turns around and goes forward, right? So this is a good time to do a lot of self, reflection. It's a full moon, it's reflecting, but realizing when things come up, just sit with them for a minute. Realize if you feel restless, give your coworker some room. I've had friends that are like, flaring up, but they see it. They see for what it is, and they're not staying angry. That sacred anger, if you will, is coming up and making them realize, man, I got to change this. And they can. And this is a good time to ask to bring in more of what it is that you need to bring in order for things to shift and change, because it is a full moon in Gemini, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is the messenger of the gods. And so he is here to send that message to you and you to send it back, and then, or for you to share with all your friends as well. So I may write a little bit more on this moon. I'm not sure. I do love this moon. Oh, because that's the whole thing. During this full moon, which we're not going to be able to see this, but the moon is going to block Mars from Earth. And to me, that is giving Mars that sacred space and that sacred time he needs to transition and get back in touch with that, the softer side of Mars. And we don't know what that looks like, right? Because we think, it's going to look like that, but that's keeping us in duality. It's what does the softer side of Mars look like? Well, I can tell you it's going to be more cerebral for sure. And then from that, I'm not sure, I'm sure Mars will still have some good abs, I'm sure. It's Mars, but it is that energy. So if you feel a little restless, see what you can do to ground yourself. This would be a good full moon to do a lot of journaling. Like I said, I might write a little bit more on that because I really feel like everything's moving together to shift the energy that needs to be shifted. Venus moves into Capricorn later in the week after this, and Venus is self-worth. Venus is that divine feminine. Capricorn is the planet of work, and we have this Mars that's still retrograde, allowing us to figure out different ways to see how abundant we are, different ways to see how joyous we can be, and different ways that we can go about and experience the earth and our neighbors in new ways. It's just not this way or that way anymore. There's so many more options, you guys. So happy full moon in Gemini. Happy full last moon of 2022. Of course, if you guys have any questions, please reach out in my DMs or on Instagram, my YouTube channel, or my website. I really enjoy making these videos, and I really enjoy talking with you guys, and every day it makes me just a little bit happier. Sometimes things can seem really bleak, and when I'm able to pull back and see all the great conversations and just laughter that I share with my friends and family, it does make it all worth it to be here at this time. So it's a trying time, but we're doing it, you guys. So make sure you guys give yourself a lot of hugs, self-hugs, and self-respect, and pat you guys yourselves on the back and in your heart space as well. Okay, till next time.